G'day, welcome to Oly35mm, user-based, quasi-empirical, cheap and cheerful videos on Olympus Zuiko branded 35mm legacy film lenses on digital mirrorless sensors. In fact, specifically the Micro Four Thirds, the APS-C and the full frame sensors, and they will be on the Olympus E-M5 MkII, the Sony NEX-F3 and the Sony A7 in that order. But this is more about the lens itself, and today I'd like to share with you the Zuiko 28mm f3.5. This is the budget wide angle lens of the bunch. There were three. There was an f2.8 and f2 as well, and of course there's other wider lenses and not so wide lenses, 24, 35 and so on. Now this is a lovely little lens. It works very well. It came out at the beginning of the OM range, and it went through till 1981 where the f2.8 took over from it. It's 7 elements in 7 groups. It's 31mm long from the mount through to the filter ring, which is a 49mm filter ring, and the front does not twist, so you can use graduated filters on it. It's 180 grams, which is actually a little bit heavier than its 2.8 counterpart, and it has an aperture range of f3.5 in single stops through to f16. Focusing from 0.3 of a meter through to infinity, with a lovely, this is one for the videographers, with a lovely 90-degree twist, so you don't actually have to twist it too far to get from 0.3 through to infinity. As far as the aperture is concerned too, we also have aperture markings from f3.5 through to f16 to give depth of field indication against the yellow and white feet, and sorry, I should say meters and feet settings. So depending on whether you use the old school or whether you use metric, you can get an idea of what your focus is. There is the usual release for the lens to actually come off the camera, and a depth of field preview. And if you notice, as I step it down, there is a 6-bladed iris diaphragm in there, so it gives quite reasonable bokeh. It's quite a nice little lens all round. Now excuse me, what do I think about it? This is a great little lens. It's was a budget lens. It goes for under $100 still. In fact, if you can possibly do it, try and buy one for under $60, but sometimes that's a little bit hard. I picked this one up for $30 Australian, and that's partly because it has quite a tight, as you can see, quite a tight aperture ring. It's actually been knocked a little bit kilter, so I managed to get it a little bit cheaper for that, but optically it's actually fine. So if you can get one for $60 or so, $50, $60, you've got yourself a bargain. If you already own one, then joy of joys, you have yourself a great little lens. If you don't already own one and you're thinking of buying a 28mm lens, I would think about getting the f2.8. It's depending on the market. It's between $20 and $50 more, and if you can justify it, I think the stop faster speed and the slightly better optics is worthwhile. Now, as far as the optics are concerned, it works quite well on the Micro Four Thirds sensor, because that's a 2x crop, and so you're only looking at the sensor. In the center, it's good pretty much from 3.5 onwards. Gets better at 5.6, and f8 and f11, they're probably the three best. To the corners, f5.6 is probably your best. On the APS-C sensor, it's pretty much the same, and both of those tend to have a little bit of blue chromatic aberration, certainly towards the edges anyway, and also towards the larger apertures. So, f3.5, f5.6, there's a little bit of blue there. It is quite good in the center on the full frame sensor, but unfortunately it is fairly poor at the edges, even at the best apertures of probably f5.6 and f8. So it's a little bit disappointing at the corners, especially for the full frame sensor, and that's a little bit of a shame, because I must admit the focal length of 28mm is probably, this lens is probably not very good for the crop sensors, so the APS-C and the Micro Four Thirds sensors. It's a 42mm lens at APS-C, and it's a 56mm lens, sorry, I should say 42mm lens equivalent, and a 56mm lens equivalent at the APS-C and Micro Four Thirds, and at f3.5 it makes it fairly slow. So when you look at some of the small lenses that you can get for the digital sensors between 20 and 30mm, and given the fact you can pick some of those up on the second-hand market for as cheap as about $100, depending, Sigma makes some that is quite nice, a 19mm and also a 30mm at f2.8, and you can pick those up for about $100, $110 second-hand. If you look around, this doesn't become a very good option. But on the full frame sensor, I think it's a wonderful lens. 28mm lenses is 28mm is a nice focal length, and this is a nice little lens. So it's easy to use. It only has about 3mm as you twist between 0.3 and infinity. Only has about 3mm gain in length, which is quite good. So it's very compact, quite light at 180 grams, 7 elements, if I haven't already said so, in 7 groups, and this one is one of the old ones, because you can see it by the G. Zuiko. The newer ones may have better multi-coating, and you may not have so many problems with that chromatic aberration, but I can't tell you. I've only ever been able, I've used 2 of these, and they're both G. Zuiko, so they're both the old time, so I can't tell you how good it actually is with the multi-coating. And Olympus, unfortunately, with their Zuiko lenses, didn't have any set plan with when they brought in the multi-coating, so I can't actually tell you whether the newer ones had the multi-coating or not, but they probably did as a guess. So that's your lot for today. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.